Hi there, welcome to Nepi Invests. There are many types of companies on the ASX because there's over 2,000 companies right now listed, ranging from very large healthcare companies to very small mining exploration companies. And in between the two, there's a wide group of companies that I think every single investor can find something that's really attractive to them. And possibly the company I'll be featuring in this video will be attractive to certain investors because Lark Distillery is all about whiskey. I've never really thought about researching or looking into this company until I just started on a whim just to have a look at their most recent Appendix 4C that released for the September quarter, just to see what I could distill from that report. And it was interesting. And then I realized the market cap of this company was over $400 million. And the questions I had at that point is how you value this company. And I actually think it's quite easy to value this company because they have a lot of whiskey that's being distilled. And if you can value that whiskey, then that's a good idea about the future cash flows this company will achieve in the next 5 years. And they actually do provide that information for you. So in this video, what I'm going to do is go through Lark Distillery's history, look at their most recent Appendix 4C, also the cash receipts history. Have a look at the chart, and you cannot say anything other than there's a lot of positive sentiment behind this company when you look at the chart over the past few years. So let's get stuck into it, and I've already given it away, but let's talk a little bit more about what this company does. Lark Distillery is all about whiskey, and one of the other reasons I decided to do a video on Lark is simply because I was looking at another company called Top Shelf, ticker TSI, and they're a very similar company than Lark in regards to their also whiskey distillery. And I just wanted to compare the value of those two companies to see if there's any sort of discrepancy. So be on the lookout for a video on Top Shelf, which I should release in the next few weeks. Lark Distillery itself was founded in 1992, so not a very old business. I thought maybe whiskey companies would be rolled like bourbon companies are in Scotland, that sort of thing, 200 years old. But Lark Distillery is only 30 years old. And when we talk about the ASX listing of Lark, we actually do have to go back to November 2003 because it's a fairly complex story behind Lark Distillery. And there was a company called Montec, which did list in November 2003. Montec was all about dairy and dairy products, but they weren't very successful with what they were doing. And it took them 11 years to realize they needed a change in their business model. And in February 2014, they agreed with Lark to distribute Lark whiskey into China. They also acquired a 30% stake in Lark at the same time, or around that time. They then changed the name to Australian Whisky Holdings in December 2015 because they got rid of all that unsuccessful dairy product and branding, changed the ticket code to AWY. They also started to increase their investments in Lark during 2016 and at the same time acquired interest in other distilleries. So at this point in time, Australian Whisky Holdings was being quite active, and they also acquired some distilleries outright during that period as well. And then during 2017-19, a fairly long process, they bought the rest of Lark. It took them a long time, but eventually they did buy a 100% stake in the company. And once they did that, they changed their name to Lark, which was in April 2020. So even though Lark Distillery as a name has only been on the ASX for 18 years, in all its iterations, this company has been on the ASX since 2003. The managing director of Lark is Jeff Bainbridge. He has a 4.8% holding in the company. And the two major shareholders of Lark are Quality Life, 9.3%, and Perennial at 7.3%. And the market cap, which did initially surprise me, is $390 million at $5.40. But even though that did surprise me, there is some reasons behind why the market cap of this company is so high. And we'll talk about those reasons during this video. And the ticker code for Lark is LRK. Before we have a look at Lark Distillery's September quarter Appendix 4C for last year and this year, just want to look at their full year results for 21 and then compare it to financial year 20 just to see if this company is growing over the past year. And they are growing when you look at revenue from 7.4 million to 16.5 million. Gross margins around 50 to 54%, a slight slip from last year to this year. Now, the company was not operational cash flow positive. In fact, they were negative $6.4 million in financial year 21, but they were profitable by $3.4 million. So operating cash flow and net profit sometimes can be quite a bit different, just the way accounting treats both of those numbers, both of those metrics, I suppose, best way to put it. So they are profitable, and a lot of people will look at that and say, well, they're not loss-making, but at the same time, they are not operational cash flow positive. They have $2.6 million of cash. They've been doing quite a few capital raisings because of acquisitions. PE ratio 114.7, so because they are profitable, we actually can calculate the PE ratio, but sometimes when you do have a very small profit, the PE ratio can look fairly high, but that profit could easily triple in 1 year, and that PE ratio will come down by 66%. And the price to sales ratio at 23.6. But there is a reason why, just looking at these numbers in isolation doesn't tell you the whole story about Lark. You need to know the amount of whiskey that is being distilled right now, because it can take quite a while for that whiskey to get onto market. And thankfully, Lark Distillery does provide that information for you. And that's the reason why I do believe this company is valued nearly $400 million, just because of the amount of whiskey they do have and will sell in the next few years. Before we have a look at the September 21 Appendix 4C, just want to go back 1 year ago to see how the company was performing then and to see how they progressed over the past year. Receipts to customers, almost $3 million, and Lark Distillery was operational cash flow negative by $1.8 million. They did an $8.9 million capital raising during this quarter, which increased their cash on hand from $6.1 million to $12.6 million. Now let's have a look at how Lark Distillery has grown over the past year by looking at the September 21 operating cash flow report, or Appendix 4C. Some things have changed for Lark Distillery and some things have not changed. In fact, receipts to customers and product manufacturing and operating costs have both almost doubled from 1 year ago. So even though receipts to customers have grown from 2.9 million, or almost 3 million, to 5.7 million, we have actually seen product manufacturing and operating costs grow from 2.5 to 5 million. And even though staff costs and administration costs are about level from where they were 1 year ago, this company is still operational cash flow positive by a very similar amount than they were 1 year ago at almost $2 million. And because they are bleeding cash, cash on hand in this business fell from 7.6 million to 5.2 million. The true way of determining a value of a company is just taking all the future cash flows and calculating the present value of those cash flows. And for this type of company, we actually can determine the sort of cash flows the company can expect over the next 5 years by looking at the amount of whiskey they have distilling or maturing. And Lark Distillery does provide that information for us. And we can compare last year to this year to see if the amount of whiskey has grown through the past year. It has grown quite considerably because of acquisitions and for some other reasons. So 1 year ago, the net sales value of all their whiskey was $107 million. Now it's at $267 million. And the litres have grown from 770,000 to 1.2 million. I think that's one of the reasons why the growth in the amount of whiskey they have maturing is one of the reasons why we've seen the value of this company go through the roof over the past year. You'll be able to see that when we look at the chart. And it's continuing to grow because of another acquisition the company has made. And right now, the net sales value of all their whiskey at maturation date is over $400 million, which is akin to the market cap of Lark Distillery right now. It's getting a little bit ahead of myself, and this is just a slide from a recent presentation the company made just around the time they made or announced this acquisition of Pontville, and they just wanted to show us, the investors, would-be investors, how this acquisition of Pontville has increased the amount of whiskey and the value of the whiskey they have on hand. So consolidated wise, the amount of whiskey in terms of litres has grown to 2 million, and the value, or the net sales value of that whiskey over the next 5 years, more than 5 years, has grown to $436 million, which is higher than the current market cap of this company. And it seems like the best way to value these sort of companies is just looking at the product they have maturing or distilling in their distilling rooms, maturing rooms, whatever you want to call it. And because the amount of whiskey in terms of net sales value has been growing quite considerably over the past few years for this company, I can say with good confidence that's one of the reasons why the value of this company has been going through the roof. I also have confidence, fairly high amount of confidence, that the receipts for Lark Distillery will grow at a consistent rate over the next 5 years. It has been doing it over the last 3 years, and I think it will definitely continue doing over the next 5 years. And that makes valuing this company so much easier. And because it's so much easier, I think the market has a good grasp of the true value of this company. So I don't think you can say Lark Distillery is overvalued or undervalued right now. I think it's fairly valued at just around $400 million, particularly if you look at the net sales value of the whiskey they have on hand. The increase in net sales value of the whiskey this company has over the past year is perfectly represented by the share price performance during the same period. And this is the Lark Distillery chart going back to 2016, the weekly chart. And from the end of 2016 to September 2020, share price of this company was just going sideways. Not a lot of volume either, so not a lot of interest in the market, but there was a breakout in the share price at the start of September 2020. Share price increased from $1.10 to $1.40 in 1 week on increased volume. So something triggered excitement in the market at that point in time. And we have seen the share price quadruple from the top of that breakout, and that's just in 1 year of trading. And right now, the share price is at about $5.50. It is at least a 5 to 7 year high. And the reason I say that is because I'm not sure what the share price was when this company was Montec. But under the Lark Distillery name, this definitely is at an all-time high. And a lot of positive sentiment behind this company right now in terms of the share price, increasing the amount of whiskey they have in terms of net sales value, increasing volume in terms of trading as well. So a lot of interest in this company right now. Just don't think there is any value. Don't think this company is undervalued, because I think the market has a fairly good handle on how to value this company, because the company provides the amount of whiskey this company has and the value of that whiskey. So I think just the increase in share price is just because the amount of whiskey this company has significantly increased in the past year. That is all I have for this September quarter Appendix 4C video for Lark Distillery. If you have any questions about this company, or maybe you're a whiskey connoisseur and maybe you like to correct something, maybe I've said something wrong, maybe you know this company in depth and you just like to clarify something, I'd love to hear your thoughts anyway, because I wouldn't call myself an expert on this company or an expert on any sort of alcohol company at all. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and leave it in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I am not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.